So He-Man and the Masters of the Universe soared in popularity, and it became one of the most popular toy lines at the time. So naturally, it was time to expand. And this time around, the girls get to have some fun. She-Ra, Princess of Power was an animated series produced by Filmation and aired for 2 seasons between September of 1985 and September of 1986, for a total of 93 episodes. Not as much as Masters of the Universe, but still a lot. While He-Man was based on an already existing toy line, She-Ra was created mostly from the ground up as a collaboration between Filmation and Mattel, and was intended to be a companion series to Masters of the Universe. But with a new cast of characters and a lot of the same action we got from He-Man, with a few familiar faces along the way. And I say we don't waste any more time, so let's check out She-Ra, Princess of Power. So on March 22nd, 1985, the TV special The Secret of the Sword premiered, which would later become the first couple episodes of the She-Ra series, but this is where our story begins. One night inside Castle Grayskull, the sorceress is awoken to find that the other sword, previously seen in her origin episode, has been activated and has opened a portal to another world. So she sends Prince Adam to see where it leads, and he ends up on a planet called Etheria, which is under the control of the Horde, an evil army that travels through space seizing planets and enslaving people. But the sword leads him to one of the Horde soldiers. This is Adora, the long-lost twin sister of Prince Adam. Long ago, the Horde attempted to take over Eternia, and failed because, well, it's Eternia.
The Horde has no interest in this world anymore.
Sounds like someone is a sore loser. But before they left, they managed to kidnap Adora, who was raised among them, and convinced that the Horde was actually doing good. Yeah, they seem real nice.
I serve the rightful rulers of Etheria.
You can't believe that. Haven't you seen how the Horde treats people?
Well, I've spent most of my life training in the Fright Zone. There's been little time to see the rest of Etheria.
I don't really have time to get out much, not with all the killing I gotta do. But she eventually goes out and sees the horrible things that the Horde does, and with some guidance from the sorceress, she holds aloft her magic sword, and with the power of Grayskull, she transforms. So with He-Man's help, they wreck the Horde's plans, and Adora joins the rebellion to fight for Etheria's freedom. There's also a scene where Adam brings her to meet her parents, and I gotta admit, this is genuinely touching. Even Man-at-Arms sheds a tear. The special ends with He-Man telling her that he'll be there if she ever needs help, and this leads us directly into She-Ra's series. The rebellion is led by Queen Angela, the rightful ruler of Etheria, who uses her magic to protect everyone. There's also her daughter Glimmer, who's not as good of a magic user and is often getting into trouble. She also swoons over any handsome fella that walks into her field of vision, because girls show. She also doesn't really do a whole lot in the show. She's seen very often, but we don't see her do much, and there were only a couple episodes focused on her, which is surprising since she's supposed to be one of the main characters and daughter of the Queen. You'd think she'd have a more important role, but no. Glimmer kinda sucks. There's Bo, who, as the name suggests, is a proficient archer and often uses arrows with wacky gadgets in them, not unlike a certain green archer from the DC universe. Given the ties Masters of the Universe has to the DC universe, as well as getting a lot of inspiration from it, I wouldn't be surprised if that's exactly where they got the idea for this character. The Rebellion's hideout is a place called the Whispering Woods, which is filled with magic trees that help conceal the rebels from the Horde. The forest is also inhabited by creatures called Twiggets. They're kinda like Smurfs, except they're bigger and purple, and they're basically the Smurfs. So just like how there were some characters that knew Adam was He-Man, there were also a few that knew Adora's secret as well. One is a Twigget named Madame Raz, who can use magic, but not very well. She also has trouble with landings when she's flying on her broom. Oh, also her broom can talk and usually berates her for screwing up.
Dazzle Dizzle, Droozle Drake. Sleeping friends, now please, shake!
Hey, what's happening?
Awake, madam, not shake!
Don't you give me any lip broom or I'll turn you into a plunger! There's also Cal, who's this little flying creature that I'm convinced is just there to be a smartass.
Congratulations, Sorrowful. You are now as brave and gallant as I.
Oh, of course, that isn't saying all that much. Forgive me, dear boy. I guess I'm not a hero at heart.
I guess you aren't.
Of course, but it does keep me from doing the stupid things you do.
I'd be more upset about this, but they establish in the series that he's an endangered species, so I'm willing to cut him some slack.
I didn't think there were many of us left.
I didn't either.
We're going extinct. On Etheria, there's a place equivalent to Castle Grayskull called the Crystal Castle. Inside is a magical spirit called Lighthope that offers help and guidance to She-Ra just like the sorcerer does for He-Man. And just like He-Man, She-Ra has her own epic mount, Swiftwind, who turns into a flying horse, though they refer to him as a unicorn despite having a horn and wings. Ugh, that's an alicorn, you heathens. He also has the most horse-sounding voice you will ever hear.
Don't you love the smell of the sea, Swifty?
I prefer the smell of oats.
Let me guess. You're hungry.
However did you know?
Look how majestic I am! I also noticed when She-Ra rides him, she's always holding onto his mane, like pulling at his hair, which doesn't look right to me. I don't know anything about horseback riding, but is that correct? Because it looks like it would hurt. So She-Ra's powers are pretty much equivalent to He-Man's, which makes sense since their powers come from the same source, though She-Ra has a few additional powers. She can communicate telepathically with animals, which includes ferocious monsters, and she also has the ability to heal wounds. Her sword has some additional abilities as well. The jewel lets her communicate with the sorceress in Castle Grayskull, and it can also turn into other things like a lasso, an impenetrable shield, a tennis racket, useful stuff. This does mean she has to give up her sword, but it never seemed to be much of a problem. She uses these powers to help the rebels defend Etheria from the Horde, who have pretty much taken over the planet. The Horde is arguably the best part of the show because while He-Man was royalty and fought a bunch of monsters and weirdos that lived in a cave, the Horde has basically won. This makes the rebels the underdogs, and when your heroes are the underdogs, it makes things inherently more interesting. The Horde is commanded by Hordak, a tyrannical demon who has had technological augments to his body so he can transform into different things. Though I do crack up a little every time I see him turn into a rocket and fly off.
Oh, blast! I must learn to control my rocket form better.
Though he commands the Horde on Etheria, the entire Horde is ruled by Horde Prime, a mysterious being who we never actually see. We only hear his voice. Eventually they give him a form which resembles some kind of insect, which is weird because in one episode we meet his son, Prince Zed, who's very human-like. Maybe he takes after his mother? The rest of the Horde consists of Mantenna, this goofy creature with laser eyes who's frequently Hornak's punching bag.
I just love doing that.
He looks nothing like his action figure, by the way, which honestly is kind of terrifying looking. And for some reason in the show, they gave him 4 legs. Where is his ass? Grizzlor, who I guess is the muscle. Catra, who has a magic visor that turns her into a feral cat. Shadow Weaver, a powerful and mysterious magic user who was responsible for keeping Adora under the Horde's control. Leech, who has the ability to drain someone's life force just by touching them. Good power to have, but we don't see him use it much. What a waste. Scorpia, who's half scorpion and very tough, but not very bright. Tongue Lasher, a snake man who grabs everything with his tongue, which is gross.
Tongue lasher. How many times must I tell you?
I know. No tongues on the equipment.
By the way, he also looks nothing like his action figure, which surprisingly I don't have. Though probably my favorite is Imp, Hordak's little spy who can hide anywhere by turning into different things. He has that vibe of the kid in school who's always telling on you, but he's also kind of adorable.
Oh, I'm gonna tell Hordak on you. You'll be sorry.
Also, he seems to be the only character that Hordak genuinely cares about.
How about if I go to Bright Moon and find Prince Joel's robo-friend?
Too dangerous. All right, Imp. But don't take any chances. You're the only one around here I can trust.
Imp, you're the only friend I have in the world. You know, maybe if I had more friends like you, I wouldn't be such a dick all the time. Nah. There were also a lot of other characters on both sides, perhaps more so than He-Man had, but many were barely in the show and hardly worth mentioning. On Etheria, there's a kingdom called Mysticor, which is home to powerful magic and ruled by Castaspella. Yeah, that's her name. We also learned that she knew Shadow Weaver before betraying Etheria to the Horde, so we got a little bit more insight on her. Other allies are Frosta, who has ice power, who would have guessed, Mermista, who is a mermaid, and her people have French accents.
A water crystal. Yes, I know where one is, Shira, but it will not be easy to get.
Forgive me, Shira. I have heard much of your goodness. You are welcome here.
I guess that's supposed to be a reference to famous ocean researcher Jacques Cousteau. There's Spinnerella with the power of Speen.
Spin!
And Nettossa. Can you guess what her whole thing is? You know, I don't know why I'm getting so upset over naming conventions in a series that gave us characters like Man-E Faces. One standout character from the show was Seahawk, a pirate who chose not to take a side in the war and will work for anyone who pays him, even the Horde. But after talking to Adora, he's convinced to join the fight against the Horde and becomes an ally of the rebels. Similarly, there was another character called General Sunder, who was a Horde officer that considered himself an honorable man, despite, being part of the Horde. He even gets married to a woman that helped him and starts a family. Good character, it's a shame he was only in 2 episodes. Though some of these were characters exclusive to the show, but we did see more characters from the Masters of the Universe series that weren't in He-Man's show. In one episode, we meet the Rock People, who are travelers from space looking for a new home. Despite their tough exterior, they consider themselves peaceful, and I think the Horde should be grateful for that. Their action figures are also some of my favorites from the toy line. Snout Spout, aka the dude with the elephant head that shoots water, shows up occasionally. In his backstory, he's supposed to be a firefighter, but in the show, they made him into a goofy but well-meaning screw-up. In one episode, we see a Horde soldier named Colonel Blast, who might be an early version of Rio Blast, the cowboy character that has guns coming out of every cavity and orifice in his body. You can definitely see the similarities. And even though He-Man and the Masters of the Universe's run had ended by the time She-Ra's show started, reruns were still airing and new toys were being made, so it was still around for the most part, and a few familiar faces showed up. Modulok returned and joined the Horde. In my last video I commented on how underutilized he was, so it was cool seeing more of him, though he was only in a few episodes. And he also built Multibot, one of the dumbest characters in the whole series. It just looks like 2 different robots that got welded together. What are we? Why were we made? Oh god, the pain! It's revealed that Skeletor used to work for Hordak, so we see him quite a bit, and he's his usual evil self.
So you're Skeletor. Would you like some spoo? It's very good.
No, I don't want any spoo. I hate spoo. I don't even know what spoo is. Now go away!
That wasn't even particularly evil. It was just rude. And of course, He-Man shows up every once in a while. Him and She-Ra fought together in several episodes, as well as the infamous He-Man She-Ra Christmas special, which is a holiday tradition in this household. Also, this counts as my Christmas review. Merry Christmas, everybody. He usually shows up when the rebellion needs help, though there were a few times where he kind of gets yoinked off of Eternia against his will. In one episode, Castaspella brought him over because she might have a thing for him.
But I don't quite understand how I got here.
Oh dear, I must have left the pool of vision on by mistake. Mistake my foot.
Somebody's thirsty.
Welcome to Castle Mysticor.
Well, thank you. This grand estate is overshadowed only by its lovely mistress.
Okay, right now Teela's probably getting really angry and she has no idea why. Glimmer even takes a pass at him, because of course she does.
I wouldn't miss the opening of Etheria's circus for anything.
Adam's a big fan of the circus.
And I'm a big fan of Adam's.
Boy, the ladies sure love Prince Adam. Must be the pink vest. Maybe I should get a pink vest. But then there's Frosta, who skips over the cute high school crush phase and is just straight up horny. despite her ice powers.
Froster? Are you all right?
Oh, couldn't be better.
Look, honey, I appreciate it, but those hands are probably way too cold for my liking. And I love how She-Ra is doing absolutely nothing about this.
Aren't the stars romantic?
Sis, I think I'd better cut my visit short.
I understand perfectly. You're chicken.
It's funny when it happens to a guy. Sadly, aside from a few episodes with He-Man, there weren't many other crossovers with Masters of the Universe. Man-at-Arms shows up in one episode to help the rebels. In another, She-Ra travels to Trala to help Orko and his people. And there's only one time when Adora tries to go to Eternia, but her trip gets messed up by Hordak, and she ends up in Eternia's past, where she meets Granomir. And apparently this is before he lost his trust in humans, because he has human allies. It would have been interesting to see how that played out, but unfortunately they don't show it.
Ooh, don't go away. We'll be back right after these messages. And now back to She-Ra, Princess of Power.
In terms of quality, the show is pretty much on par with Masters of the Universe. Makes sense since they're Filmation shows, which for the most part were all the same. Same static images, same recycled animation. They even used some of the rotoscoped animation from Masters of the Universe. Though something about the show did seem more appealing. There were brighter colors and there were a few moments of good, unique animation. The show did come out later than Masters of the Universe, so I guess a bit more effort went into it. However, I did notice that She-Ra's show was a bit sillier than He-Man's. I mean, there was plenty of silliness there too, but they seemed to dial it up a bit. Heck, there were pies being thrown in one episode. Some of the voices were a little strange too, which is to be expected with Filmation. They had a lot of weird voices in all their shows, and a lot of them were in Masters of the Universe, like Buzz Off. But there seemed to be a lot more in She-Ra too, especially with the female characters. It's like they went up to them, can you sound more girl? Like more girl.
Is it true that you can see other planets in your pool of vision? I can see almost anywhere. Watch.
Probably the worst offender is Catra.
Air Cruiser #1. To Horde headquarters. Come in. Hordak. This is Catra.
Okay, we get it, you're a cat lady. Just shut up. Ugh. Oh, can you imagine her and Buzz Off having a conversation? Ugh. My ears hurt just thinking about it. And just like with Masters of the Universe, they were required to end every episode with some kind of moral. But they at least tried to do something a little different. This is Lookie. At the end of each episode, he gives us the moral of the day, and he also hides somewhere in each episode, so you have to find him. For fun, I guess. Sometimes he hides pretty well, but oftentimes it's blatantly obvious. Gee, I wonder where he is. A lot of times it was the same stuff, like don't judge others by how they look, or be a good friend, or something generic like that. But once again, it was clearly tacked on because some of the morals were a real stretch and oftentimes just absurd.
Today's story was about a gateway to trouble. And when Modulok went through, he did find trouble on the other side. Getting into trouble is easy, but getting out is harder. The next time you think you're at a gateway to trouble, stop! Don't go in!
Seriously, that was a small part of that particular episode, and it barely tied in with anything else. One of the worst ones is in the episode Troll's Dream. In a previous episode, we meet a group of trolls that She-Ra convinces to become allies of the rebellion. In this episode, the Troll King tells She-Ra about a prophetic dream he had about the Horde unleashing an ancient evil. But the others don't really trust the trolls, so She-Ra has to show everyone that they're friends. So the moral here should be pretty obvious, right?
In today's story, the troll had a dream. And when I think of dreams, I think of sleep. The next time you're told it's bedtime, remember that getting enough sleep is a very important part of your good health.
Really? Shouldn't the message be something like, don't be afraid of someone because they're different, or something like that? I know that was used in a lot of episodes, but it'd be more appropriate here than whatever that was. Though admittedly, I kind of like the idea of Lookie, a character outside the narrative that addresses the audience. It's a bit less jarring when He-Man broke the fourth wall in his show. An outside observer, always watching, but never interfering. Except he did in a few episodes. Yeah, there were a couple of episodes where he actually helps out. In one, She-Ra gets in trouble and Lighthope sends him to go get Adam, and we get this weird revelation.
But where is She-Ra?
Adora is She-Ra. You are the only one who can reach her brother, He-Man.
Adora is She-Ra? That means that He-Man is...
Prince Adam.
You didn't know? You didn't know that Adora was She-Ra? You have fourth wall breaking abilities, and you didn't know that? What the hell's wrong with you? As much as I like the idea of him, I really don't understand this character. He's completely pointless. You might as well watch a PSA from Masters of the Universe while playing a game of Where's Waldo. At least that'd be more of a challenge. Though there was one episode where He-Man and She-Ra did the PSA segment, so hopefully they have something more insightful to say.
She-Ra and I want to talk to you about something that's very personal. Your body.
Remember, it's your body and no one should touch you in a way that you feel is wrong.
If you've been touched that way, don't be ashamed. Tell someone you trust.
Whoa, guys! Chill out! That also had nothing to do with that particular episode. Jeez, talk about morality whiplash. Actually, you know what?
She-Ra and I want to talk to you about something that's very personal. Your body.
Remember, it's your body and no one should touch you in a way that you feel is wrong.
If you've been touched that way, don't be ashamed. Tell someone you trust.
So, I'm kind of out of stuff to say about the show overall. Anything else I can add, I pretty much went over in my previous review of He-Man and the Masters of the Universe. So, I'm just going to talk about a couple of episodes that I thought stood out. There's a two-parter that's heavily focused on Seahawk, where we meet his long-lost father who gives him his old equipment after proving he's earned it. Seahawk was kind of a breakout character for the Filmation cartoon, and these episodes really show why. An episode that kind of confused me was The Red Knight, where a mysterious man in red armor shows up to aid the rebellion. The thing is, they make a big deal about his identity to the point where Queen Angela remarks that he seems familiar.
But your voice is somehow familiar to me.
My true name shall remain a secret until all of Hordak's evil forces are defeated.
At first I thought there was going to be a big reveal that he's her husband and Glimmer's father, but we actually meet him in a later episode. We only see the Red Knight once in the entire series, and we never learn who he really is. Not even the Wiki Grayskull has answers. So I have no idea what they were planning for this character, or even if they planned anything at all. In 3 Courageous Hearts, She-Ra gets trapped in another dimension, and it's up to Cal, Madame Raz, and Broom to get her free. As goofy as these characters are, I do like a good unlikely hero story, and this is definitely one of them. In Swifty's Baby, which incidentally is the final episode of the show, Swiftwind reveals he's going to be a father with another unicorn on a place called Unicorn Island, which is a place that was established in a previous episode because Hordak tried to conquer it.
We'll capture it and make it a horde base, and we'll make slaves of the unicorns.
You gonna try and take over Equestria, Hordak? Yeah, good luck with that. Even the Decepticons couldn't pull that one off. How that doesn't end in a massacre is beyond me. Anyway, the Horde captures the mother, and they have to get her back to the island before she gives birth, or the baby will be an ordinary horse and not a unicorn. And they fail. They don't get her back in time, and the baby is born as a horse.
How do you feel about your baby not being a unicorn, Swifty?
She-Ra, he's our baby.
So it doesn't make any difference.
That's right. We love him just as much as if he were a unicorn, like us.
I kind of wish they had just left it like that, because it's a very strong message, but She-Ra uses her powers to turn him into a unicorn. Shame, it would have been more compelling the other way. In My Friend, My Enemy, Skeletor sends Hordak a cursed pie as a secret admirer. Let me go over that one more time. Skeletor, the Lord of Destruction, anonymously sends Hordak a cursed pie, who doesn't question it and proceeds to eat it with his hands in the most undignified way possible. Our villains, ladies and gentlemen. Anyway, the pie causes Hordak to slowly fade away, aka die, unless someone cries for him. So She-Ra goes out of her way to find someone that will. But of course nobody's gonna cry for Hordak. She should have found Imp, he would have done it. But seeing how uncaring everyone is causes her to cry for Hordak and breaks the curse. I have mixed feelings about this because while a hero having compassion even for a villain is a good thing, I don't see Hordak as redeemable. In the episode Into the Dark Dimension, Hordak and She-Ra get trapped in another dimension and have to cooperate to survive. You know, that old cliche. But Hordak's way for doing things doesn't work, and She-Ra basically has to carry the team. You'd think a situation like that would change his perspective or something, but no. He just stays his usual self.
You saved my life, but I will not be in your debt. I am, therefore, repaying you now. We will not fight this day.
I mean, with Skeletor, it was at least funny.
I don't like to feel good. I like to feel evil. Oh.
Hordak and the Horde are irredeemably rotten, and I think them being this way is very important to the show because the Horde truly does horrible things. And as proof of that, look no further than the episode titled Book Burning, which, as the title suggests, is about book burning. The Horde rolls into a town and decides that the youth need to be re-educated.
To stop the spread of further lies about the Great Horde, we are collecting all books. I repeat, all books. You will bring them here to the town square by noon tomorrow.
You know, upon revisiting this show, one thing that I definitely didn't expect was to find an episode that's still very relevant. I do like that they show the people are having absolutely none of this. Well, except one dumbass kid who believes their lies. That is, until they go after his family.
We used you, boy, but we don't need you anymore. Put him in the transport.
No! You can't do that!
Oh no. This affects me now. I'm against it! One episode I really liked was Just Like Me. In this one, we meet a girl who looks up to She-Ra, but doesn't think Adora is anything special and just sees her as an ordinary woman. And at the end of the episode, the girl sees Adora take on Modulok as herself and beat him. I like this for two reasons. For one, it shows that seemingly ordinary people can achieve great things. Also, this is what I wanted to see more of with Adam in Masters of the Universe, showing why he was worthy of the power. In fact, in the episode Day of the Flowers, Orko accidentally loses the swords and Adam and Adora have to save the day as themselves. Granted, their plan was kind of ridiculous, but at least the idea is there. Some of the best episodes, though, were when He-Man and She-Ra teamed up. On their own, they were both great, but together, they were unstoppable. In Lookie Lends a Hand, the first episode where Lookie breaks his sacred vow to not interfere, the reason She-Ra was in trouble was because Hordak made a device that stops time for all non-magical beings. After He-Man frees She-Ra, they combine their strength to move the device away from everyone else.
Something is moving the time machine.
But that's impossible! No one can move time!
You underestimate the power of Grayskull, sir. One of my favorite moments is in the episode Horde Prime Takes a Holiday, where Horde Prime leaves his ship in Hordak's care, but Skeletor tries to steal it to attack Eternia. But He-Man and She-Ra have no way to get up there, so He-Man grapple hooks the ship from the surface of the planet and holds it in place while She-Ra climbs all the way up the rope to board the ship and stop Skeletor. God, I love this series. As awesome as that is, the show still had its fair share of silly episodes, just like Masters of the Universe did. So here's my favorite. In Flowers for Hordak, Shadow Weaver finds a way to kill the trees that are hiding the rebellion. Incidentally, this is one of the few times Glimmer is useful because she uses her power to keep the trees alive to the point of exhaustion. Nice to see her actually do something for once. But the biggest problem is the character Perfuma, who has the power to grow plants. They kidnap her so she won't interfere, and she proceeds to drive Hordak crazy.
Doesn't the place look so much nicer now? I always say there's nothing like a few flowers. Don't you think so, Hordikins?
Flowers! Flowers! One more flower and I'll...
Oh, Hordikins, don't be such an old grouch. Cheer up.
It gets to the point where Hordak begs She-Ra to take her back and even agrees to stop the attack on the Whispering Woods.
We were having fun, weren't we, Hordikins?
Well, gee, I don't know, Hordikins. She says she wants to stay.
Oh, I'll have Shadow Weaver remove the spell of darkness over the Whispering Woods.
You know, I'm not even sure why we need She-Ra in the rebellion. Apparently Perfuma can bring the Horde down by herself. Well, I think that's enough. There is a lot more I can talk about, but I think you get the point by now. She-Ra, Princess of Power, is about as good as He-Man and the Masters of the Universe, if not maybe a tiny bit better, and I think that's about right. It has about the same things you can expect from He-Man or any Filmation show for that matter. Take that for what it's worth. But She-Ra was meant to be a companion series to He-Man, and in that regard it serves its purpose well. There are many noticeable parallels to Masters of the Universe, from characters to situations. In my last review, I couldn't help but notice they gave a lot of focus to the female characters like Teela, the Sorceress, and Marlena, despite He-Man being a show for boys. Meanwhile, She-Ra, a show intended for girls, gave a lot of focus to the male characters like Bo, Seahawk, and General Sunder. I don't know if that was intentional or not, but it did make the shows very well balanced, and allowed both shows to be enjoyed by boys and girls. Sadly though, while He-Man lived on in various forms after the 80s, She-Ra never really saw much of a revival. The characters were well represented in the Masters of the Universe Classics action figure line, and they even made figures of characters exclusive to the Filmation series. And DVDs were released, though earlier releases tend to be a bit pricey and harder to find. Thankfully, the series got a more widely available DVD release in 2019. You can also find episodes on the official Masters of the Universe channel on YouTube. But aside from the occasional appearance, we didn't really see much of She-Ra since the Filmation series. At least until 2018, when the series was rebooted by DreamWorks. I was going to talk more about this, but unfortunately I decided to cut it for time. What, you want this video to take longer to come out? I do have a lot to say about it, so maybe I'll go into it another time, but today is not that day. I'll just sum things up by saying it has some issues, but I don't think it's a particularly bad show, and it's certainly not the worst reboot I've ever seen. That's for damn sure. Also, Entrapta was the best part of the show, and I will not hear from anyone that says otherwise. The one thing that really bums me out, though, is that we haven't seen He-Man and She-Ra team up pretty much since the Filmation days. Every time there's a new version of He-Man or She-Ra, everyone expects the big crossover, but it never happens. Unfortunately, a crossover is being prevented because apparently there's a lot of legal problems surrounding She-Ra that I'm not really qualified to talk about. I don't care. We need to see this again. Lock everyone involved into a room until they come to some sort of agreement. He-Man and She-Ra need to be reunited. The world needs it and the people want it. So in conclusion, if you enjoyed He-Man and the Masters of the Universe, check out She-Ra, Princess of Power, and make I Have the Power become We Have the Power. Okay guys, we need to have a talk, and I'm talking to you mostly as myself and not whatever character I am when I do these videos. So, the plan for this year was for me to do a big Masters of the Universe retrospective where I did the Filmation cartoons, as well as the New Adventures of He-Man and the 2002 reboot. Obviously, that did not happen. You see how long it took me to put out the Masters of the Universe review. You saw how long it took me to put out this video. Yeah, I don't really have the time to dedicate to Cartoon Clipshow like I used to. I work full-time. I have a lot of off-screen responsibilities in real life. I've talked about this stuff too in vlogs, and I've talked about it on social media as well, but the thing is, Cartoon Clipshow gets a lot of views, so a lot of you watching right now never heard me talk about that stuff. So I have made a very difficult decision, and I'm going to be postponing these reviews because it's just way too much for me to handle right now. These are all hefty series. I mean, He-Man was over 100 episodes, She-Ra was 93 episodes, and you know, these two also have a lot of episodes. So I can't really do big series like I used to, maybe occasionally. I do want to get to these at some point because I do have a lot to say, especially this one, because not a lot of people talk about it, but yeah, it's going to have to wait. I even had a little skit planned for the end of the 2002 series review, just to sort of cap everything off, but unfortunately that is going to have to be scrapped. For the time being, I'm going to be taking a little bit of a break from Cartoon Clipshow because I'm kind of exhausted by it. I would like to return to it sometime soon, maybe with smaller reviews or something. We'll see how the new year turns out. But for the time being, this is how it has to be. You can check me out on social media. I have 2 other channels that I'm relatively, focusing on right now in like my in-between times, just to blow off some steam. So maybe check those out. I wish I could have put out more this year. I don't know how much I'm going to be able to put out next year, so we'll just have to see how things go. But I'll be back. I wish I could have did more, but unfortunately I couldn't. So hopefully things will get a little bit better, but we'll have to wait and see. Thanks for watching, and I will see you in the next video.
Looks like you're going back to see Castaspella. You don't mind, do you?